Welcome to the Pitchwerks podcast. I'm Scott McTaggart. Over the last 20 years, I've been a sales rep, a marketer, a manager, an executive, a consultant, and an advisor. This show is designed to give you access to my list of contacts so that you can learn more about how to present your ideas at work and succeed in your career.
Startups and salespeople, marketers and managers from the Epicast Network in Pittsburgh. It's the Pitchwerks podcast.
There are funds being identified and created that do target and are specified to support women-owned and women-led companies. Because we know research shows for all kinds of companies, if you have a more diverse leadership team, whether it is by gender or race or what have you, those companies tend to be more successful.
Happy Wednesday, Pitchworkers. You're about to meet a good soul that I know. Her name is Yvonne Campos. You're going to love what she's working on. Yvonne identified a problem in the market that female entrepreneurs were underserved, and she has a plan. By the time the show is over, you will know that she's onto something hot. She explained it to me, and I fully expect that she's going to have entrepreneurs lined up around the block just trying to get FaceTime with her and the committee. So have a listen. Yvonne Campos from the Next Act Fund, formerly of Campos Market Research. And I should also point out, a really active member of the Women Presidents Organization. Actually, she told me she runs 2 different chapters, which from volunteerism and giving back and all those kinds of things, you just have to take your hat off. Check out this interview with Yvonne Campos. Yvonne, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
I'm really glad to have you here.
Great.
Let's jump right into it. What is the name of what you're working on?
I created the Next Act Fund. It's an angel investment fund that is targeting women entrepreneurs to provide capital for women entrepreneurs.
I love that you came right out of the gate with the pitch because you knew I was going to ask for it.
This is what I'm doing nowadays. I'm very excited about it. It's a wonderful opportunity to have an impact on women entrepreneurs. And having been a woman entrepreneur for 30 years, I've been through the process of trying to grow a business, discovering how difficult it is to have access to capital. And really, without capital, you can't grow. You can grow organically, but that's pretty slow usually.
Let me play the bad guy for a second.
Okay.
Yvonne, you should just be applying to the same funds that already exist.
The problem is with the funds that already exist is we're not getting women. Entrepreneurs are not getting their fair share of those dollars.
Well, they should just try harder.
Well, they're trying hard and it's not working, so we're changing it.
I'm not the bad guy, everybody. My mother raised a proper feminist. I swear that was just me playing a character.
What we know is that 99% of all VCs are men.
Really?
Yes. What we know is 86% of all angel investors are men. And what happens is, what we're seeing, what the data shows us, is that it's much more difficult for women to get in front of those groups, and much more difficult for women to get through the process and then to be funded in front of those groups. I'm not suggesting it's because these are terrible people. I'm suggesting it's that unconscious bias that exists no matter where we are and who we are, that does not allow those groups to support women entrepreneurs at the level that they should be based on how many women entrepreneurs are out there that are pitching and creating companies and so forth.
So I'm sure you have seen women entrepreneurs that did not get funding, that in your judgment should have gotten funding.
Right.
So what went wrong in the cases? Well, how about this? I'm making an assumption right now. I'm assuming that you saw a problem firsthand. Is that accurate? Let's start there.
I've known about this all along.
Okay.
I mean, I've had experience in hearing data, looking at data and hearing experiences about women trying to find capital and trying to get investments in dollars and so forth. And it's always been difficult. And many times you look at them and they say, and you say, well, why not? This is a great idea. It has a technology platform. It's in a space. It's being disruptive. They're serial entrepreneurs. They've been successful in the past. They've got a product.
These are the boxes
They've got a
you
management team. Yeah, check.
Yeah, this is what people tell me they look for in investments when I speak in those circles.
Yeah, and they're still not getting the kind of money that they need. And I had a particular friend of mine that is a serial entrepreneur that was doing the same thing was having difficulty. She did get some money. She did get some dollars. An angel investor invested with her, and someone else invested. But she was still having trouble finding enough capital to move the business forward.
How long ago?
Probably just maybe 5 or 6 months ago.
That's
Yeah.
basically the same as today.
Yeah,
And the reason I
exactly.
ask is I think we pat ourselves on the back a lot for how far we've come.
Oh, we've come far in a lot of ways, but not in this area.
Okay.
We still need a lot of work to do here. And so anyway, we were having coffee one day, and she was talking about how much difficulty she was having finding resources for capital and so forth. I had just sold my business, Campos Market Research, had sold it. And I just said to her, I said, well, you know what? I've got some money.
Right.
I know some other women that have money. Let me see what I can do. So I put a group of 10 women together. We put a fund together, Next Act Capital, and we put a single purpose fund together. We invested in this company, and we did 2 rounds, and it was all good. It just happened. It was one of those things. I knew this person. I knew the company that she was building. I knew her background. I knew the kind of company that was moving forward. I knew the potential growth of this company. She was in a space where there was no one else filling that space.
Again, we're back to checking the boxes that you look
Exactly.
for.
So
it's a good investment.
So it's a good investment. So far, so good. Okay, she's in her 3rd year. It's looking good. She'll probably have an exit strategy in the next couple of years. So this will be great. But what happened once I did that deal, Scott? What happened was I had other women come to me and start saying, I heard you did this deal. I'm really interested in doing this. Or I heard you did this. I heard you invested in this. I heard you put this together. And all kinds of information of women and information were being brought to me about there's a need for this. And so I started doing the research on it. And there is a trend, actually, in the marketplace where even that, I told you 99% of VCs are men.
Right.
1% is women. Some of those women are moving out of their current funds and creating new funds, women-focused funds. Okay. Some of the angel investment groups that are being created are women-focused groups. So they're mostly in the East Coast, West Coast, Chicago area, Texas area. They're all over, but those are big pockets. And so I talked with about 10 or 12 different angel funds that were focused on women. I looked at their structures, what they were doing, how it was happening, so on and so forth. And decided that I would do a proof of concept test then locally. And so I brought about 30, 35, 36 women together and said, here's what I've learned. Here's what it looks like. If we were to create something like that, here's what it would look like, taste like, feel like. I don't know. What do we think? And I had 3 women in that meeting say, count me in immediately, it wasn't even built yet.
They want to put their money in right now.
Yeah. And I looked at the marketplace. There is not a woman-focused angel fund in our region.
I was just going to ask,
Okay.
is there a geography to it? Or is it Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic? What are you looking at?
It's our region, but as an angel investment group, we can invest in any company anywhere.
Right. We're talking to Yvonne Campos, Next Act Fund, an angel fund that's investing in women, and most, if not all, money is coming from women. So a very specialized sort of an idea to serve, 50% of the population. So
after that meeting, after we did the proof of concept, and it looked like there was interest, or there was a lot looking at all the data that I put together. I also knew there were 25,000 women in our region that actually qualified as accredited investors. So I knew that the women with resources were in our area.
that number is significantly higher than I would have thought.
No, it's about 25. At
Well,
least
accredited
25,000.
investor requires you to have what?
$1 million in net worth without your house.
Without your house. And then
$200,000 personal income if you're single, or $300,000 if you're a couple.
that's the one I was struggling
Yeah.
for. I was trying to remember what the income requirements
Yeah.
were. So that is a pretty high
200,000,
number. I mean, there are a lot of potential people who could be involved.
And we know that women in the future, we know that as a market, that women are going to control about $14 trillion by 2020.
Okay.
Because nationally, right? Nationally. Women have their own money. There's entrepreneurs. There's women like me. We have our own money. Many times you inherit from your parents.
I mean, this is a compliment. There aren't a lot of women like you.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
I wouldn't. I meet a lot of people. You are a unique type.
Thank you.
And
I'm going to
again,
take that as a compliment.
I intend it that way, and that's why I prefaced it that way.
Good. But there are, women also inherit their family money from their own parents. And perhaps sadly, if they lose a husband or a partner, they inherit those dollars. So women have access to lots of dollars. And what's important to them, they're going to have to learn to invest them. They're going to have to learn what to do with those dollars. And they want to do something that also matches their values. And Next Act Fund fits that model in the sense not only are we helping women entrepreneurs grow and be more successful, in other words, the fact that we're helping women become better and more successful, it appeals to women to be supported. So we're women investing in women.
So let me ask you to put your market research hat on there, because you said something about investing in their values. Is that something that shows up more amongst female investors?
More so than males. More so than, not that that's not important to
it's
some
not
males.
intended to be a dig at anybody. It's just a curiosity.
But for women, when the research shows that when financial institutions and investment groups have all done research with women because they're a potential huge market. And one of the key things is that they want their money to match the values that they have.
So considering the fact that compost market research is in your past, I don't take anything that you say as being an off-the-cuff remark. When you say something like, well, they want to invest with their values, I know somewhere you've got a paper on your desk that says it's about the data.
It's available. The data's available.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm a female investor, or I'm a female entrepreneur, rather. What are you hoping to hear from me?
Well, I'm hoping, and here's the beautiful thing. We are in a marketplace because of our universities and the environment that we are currently in Pittsburgh, in the region, which is a growth, innovation, welcoming community. There are many women, men that are entrepreneurs, and we have, I think there's over 21 type of incubator type organizations that are helping build entrepreneurs.
The numbers jumped very high very recently. Councilman Gilman was here a few months back.
Yes, Dan.
Yeah. He prides himself on bringing in these jobs from outside the region and keeps pointing to, I believe he said it was the second best educated region in the country.
We actually have the highest education, the most highly educated female force in the country.
That's really good for you.
Exactly.
So he's trying to bring in maybe established firms, and here you are planting seeds for new ones.
We're also building our own, right? We're home growing our own here with entrepreneurs. We have CMU, we have the University of Pittsburgh, we have other universities. So, and a number of those people, they're not all males doing this. There's a lot of females doing this. And so we really want to make sure with the Next Act Fund that we are in a position to be able to invest and help support the growth of the women entrepreneurs.
So we all know there's sort of like a standard issue checklist we were just referring to it a moment ago. If I'm a female entrepreneur, should I know of any of those that you think differently about? Are there any conventional wisdom items? Like you mentioned, say, serial entrepreneur, right? Well, there's not a lot of those, right? And that doesn't make someone's idea or their work ethic or their perseverance any less, right? Are there any conventional wisdom items that you're throwing out the window with Next Act?
Well, we are not looking to invest in startups.
Okay.
They have to be early stage. And that means you have a product or a prototype, and that you also have a management team in place, that you also have a customer or potential customers lined up, that you've done a beta test, that you are moving to the next stage. You've used your own friends and family and seed money of your own first. Then you come to us.
To demonstrate that you've got skin in the game.
Yeah. Angel funds usually are between those dollars and VCs. There's a gap. When you look at the life cycle of money within a business, for entrepreneurs, yes, you can get some money up front from everybody you know, and your family helps you. And I did the same. I refinanced a building I had and so on and so forth to get my company started. And so you do all that. Then when you're big enough and running up enough, the VCs start to be interested.
Right.
But in between all of that, when you need some growth, is when it's the most difficult time to find money. And angel funds have grown dramatically in the next 10 years because they're meeting this need. We have a wonderful angel fund, Blue Tree Allied Angels here in Pittsburgh.
Yes, very familiar.
Run by Catherine Mott, very dear friend of mine, a member of Next Act Fund, an advisor on the Next Act Fund.
You got to get Catherine in here sometime to talk about what she likes in a
I
pitch.
can get her here tomorrow.
Oh, well, I'm not doing a show tomorrow, but I want to hear what she's looking for in a pitch too while we're talking.
Absolutely. And she is very knowledgeable with regards to angel investing because she's been in that business for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Very successful angel fund. So I find her, she is a wonderful resource for us, for Next Act Fund, and she is very committed to us growing this fund. But so we will be educating our women because we have women already in the fund. Some of them have zero experience with regards to investing and some that are more sophisticated. So we really do need to be able to educate the women that are involved with Next Act Fund, and we will be doing that as part of our process.
I think that's smart. Mm-hmm. This is not an area, this is not Silicon Valley where it's in the newspaper every day. Sometimes you can pick it up osmotically, right? It just happens to, waft by you in the air, and you say, my dad used to say that about football. He says, if you live in Pittsburgh, you just know football because you can't avoid it.
It's everywhere, right? Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I think I'd probably trade startups and investing, but that's just me, and maybe I'm wrong. What's not going the way, or not even necessarily right now? Where did you struggle, or where have you struggled?
For Next Act Fund?
Yes.
Well, we're a startup basically. We're in the startup mode, and so we're not struggling, but we're working very hard to build the fund. Mm-hmm. And so we have informational meetings that we're inviting people to come to educate them about the fund, to give them the information they need to make a decision about whether they want to participate or not. But
when you get in, I have to assume you're also looking to have an exit of your own. Am I right? Or are you really long-term?
Me personally?
I'm sorry. I should be talking about the fund. When the fund gets involved.
The fund, it's what angel money is what they call patient money.
Patient money.
Patient money. Yeah, because you invest and really you do not get a return until that company exits. Mm-hmm. And that could be, on average, if you look at all the angel funds across the country, the national statistics say it can be anywhere from 5 to 7 years before you get your payout.
That's not as long as I thought. Okay.
No. I mean, there's some longer. Some biotech and medical device, those take longer. But and there's some as short as 3 years. But really, on average, it's around about 5 to 7 years before you, because then by that time they're looking at an exit strategy. And the main thing you want them to do is to be bought out.
I'm old enough now where it doesn't feel like that's that long of a time.
Yeah, it's about 2 weeks, isn't it?
We just keep skipping over presidents now, as far as I'm concerned. Are there verticals you like?
For Next Act, we're looking at everything right now. We are not limiting ourselves into a particular vertical. I know there's some funds that look just at technology or just at consumer products or just at medical devices and so forth, or biotech and what have you. Right now, for us, we're looking at all verticals at this point. And we're in a wonderful position to do so because we have so many wonderful new entrepreneurs that are creating companies in all kinds of areas here in this market.
If I may, I think you are going to have a problem. I think you're going to have too many people that want to get into the fund.
Well, you always do.
You just said 1% of these VCs are male.
No, 1% are female. Of them. 99% are male.
Yeah, trust me, I would have noticed it if it was the other way around. No, sorry, 99% of them are male. Mm-hmm. So you've identified a need. You've identified demand.
For our market in particular,
for what you're targeting.
Yeah.
I have to believe you're going to have to turn a bunch of people away.
Well, there are other women-focused funds across the country. We're not the only one.
I hear you.
But people women go to all of these funds to try to get money. Here's the other side of this. Just because you're a woman female entrepreneur, does not mean you'll necessarily get funding from us.
Oh, no.
It has to be the right
I'll assume
opportunity.
that.
Absolutely, the right opportunity. But what will happen is, and all angel funds have investment committees and due diligence committees that do our homework. And the statistics show nationally that the more time you spend on due diligence, the more successful your fund will be.
No doubt.
When they look at funds that spend about 20 hours on due diligence and compare it to funds that do about 40 hours on due diligence, it's a dramatic difference between the success levels of those funds.
I do love the research. I do. I love that part of this discussion. The fact that you just have this facility with the numbers is
those are numbers I've been learning recently, let me assure you.
Who have you been pitching?
I have been pitching as many women as possible.
Yeah.
Usually they need to be someone I know, and those individuals need to introduce me to people they know.
So it's like the mob.
It's like the mob.
It's like the mob.
It's actually like, I keep saying it's sort of like a Tupperware party anymore. It's sort of the Tupperware model. We're having house parties now.
Well, we'll split the difference. It'll be a Tupperware mob.
Where we bring women together and to at least educate them about what we're doing.
I like the idea.
It's a terrific
cheating.
idea.
You're cheating, and I cheat too. Don't worry. I like knowing the way this person who I'm trusting sees the world, and whether or not I can trust their judgment and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But I do. I think that all of a sudden, when word gets out, where there's a fund, where these traits that you've identified that are unique to women in business, they're going to stop trying to bang their head against the wall. Oh, how do I get in front of these male VCs? How do I get in front of these male funds, right? And they're going to come to you. And there's going to be a line that you're going to have to draw. And you're going to say, these great people aren't going to make it in.
Right. Well, here's one thing. What will happen is, in more than normal cases, it's very normal to have multiple funds syndicate to invest in a particular.
I would say you'd have to.
And what I'm not saying is that the VCs and the dominant angel funds that exist right now, I'm not saying they're not funding women entrepreneurs. What I'm saying is they're not funding enough of them.
Okay, but if I'm a woman entrepreneur, I want to come to you.
I hope so.
That's what I'm saying. From a demand perspective, would I rather be in front of a culture I don't understand? But
only if we match your needs. We have a small fund. You may be in another position where you need much more money than we'll ever be able to give. What I did learn, Scott, was that because I was worried about, this is a new endeavor for me. I'm putting it together. I'm in a startup mode also.
Yeah.
And I knew that I could build it.
Yeah.
I just knew that I could build it. That part I'm okay with. Then I had this question in my mind about, but what about the pipeline? What about the companies that we need to come, to be able to look at and vet and do our due diligence on and so forth? Everyone I talked to in the marketplace nationally, plus Catherine at Blue Tree, who has tremendous experience, she says, don't worry about the pipeline. They find you.
I'm sure of it.
When entrepreneurs are looking for money, they find people with money. And so that we would be identified just like many other angel funds would be identified.
Yeah. I don't doubt any part of it. I just think that there are countless that don't have the same unfair advantage is what I'm going to call it. You probably know Jack Roseman.
I know Jack.
Yeah. Jack had a great column in the Business Times and in other papers and a tremendous lecturer. And one of the things that he used to say that I loved was, what's your unfair advantage? Because if you can't answer that question, you don't really deserve to be here.
It's how do you differentiate yourself in the marketplace, basically?
Well, you really do have an unfair advantage. You are going to attract people that don't want some poisonous aspects of the investment community.
Well, perhaps not. The thing is even if I was an entrepreneur of today and I was looking for funding, I would certainly look at where I would think I would have the best advantage, but that doesn't mean I would knock people out that have the opportunity to help fund my business either.
Right, I get it.
Right, yeah.
But how about this? Entrepreneurs tend to be a lot like artists, right? They're
creative.
You don't want anybody to tell you that your baby is ugly, right? Devin, who was on.
Well, but you know what? The entrepreneurs that you fund are coachable.
Yes, true.
Because if they're not coachable, the people that are funding them have experience and expertise that they can share with them to help them be successful. So if you are an individual that is not coachable, you're going to have difficulty finding funding.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to be rejected by somebody that I don't think necessarily even understands my approach, right?
It happens every day.
Yeah, that's my point.
That happens every day. That happened to me in business often enough.
In sales, that's what you get paid for.
Every day.
In sales, you get paid to be rejected. So trust me, I'm well versed in this end of the pool. You know what? We got to do a second episode, I think, because we haven't gotten into your adventures in market research. And here's the other thing. I think we probably need to unpack what the current climate is for women in business. So can we do a second episode? Can you hang out?
Absolutely.
Let's do that. Okay, but we have to do a proper exit first.
All righty.
Everybody, tune in 7 days. Yvonne and I are going to keep talking, but you won't be allowed to participate in that or hear how it goes until next week. All right, before we take off here, and yes, we actually are going to break away. Yvonne will be back on next week's show. Just want to make sure you understand. This one will stand on its own. We said everything we want to say about the Next Act Fund, but now I want to pick Yvonne's brain a little bit, if you can hang around a little bit. We want to talk more about being in the business 30 years ago when compost market research started. I'd like to ask you more about how far we actually have come. How far do we think we've come versus what's the reality? I want to talk a little bit about what our kids are going to experience. We're going to do all of that. For you, the audience, please don't forget, check us out, rate and review, iTunes, Google Play, whatever it is that you use. It's really important to us and the health of the show for all the various business entities that are involved here to get that feedback, to be able to show it to other people. 5 stars, 4 stars, 1 star. Scott's great, Scott sucks. Doesn't matter. Please put it out there. If you need any help, hit us up, pitchwerks.com or any of the social destinations, PITCHWERKS. We'll do what we can. I hope you're enjoying the ride. I know I am. I'll catch you in about 7 days.
The Pitchwerks podcast comes to you from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a production of the Epicast Network and McTaggart, LLC. Engineering and production by Buzzy Torek and Nick Miller. For more information, show feedback, and ad sales, visit pitchwerks.com, PITCHWERKS.com. On social media, find and follow the show on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram using that same brand name, PITCHWERKS.